Shakur Stevenson's win over Oscar Valdez was impressive. He's come a long way since his debut back in 2017, and he's going to be a tough fighter to beat for anyone weighing under 135 pounds. He's a big southpaw with a great sense of range and distance. He rattles off 2 and 3 punch combinations at will. He's going to be a force for years to come. It's going to be interesting to see how many weight divisions he's able to rise up to, because he looked a lot bigger than Valdez in there. Some of it was their body language, maybe, because Valdez's crouch posture throughout, but this was like a man versus boy matchup, even though Stevenson was the younger man. Now, Valdez still has a future, but my take on him is that he's one of those fighters that can really only fight one way. He couldn't make any adjustments against Stevenson. Seemed like he was trying for that one punch to turn things around, but he doesn't have that kind of concussive power. Also, he wasn't throwing enough punches. He was afraid of being countered and or was totally confused by Stevenson's southpaw style. Valdez never attempted to circle to his left like you're supposed to with a southpaw. Instead, he simply planted his feet in front of Stevenson and got into that turtle shell-like defensive posture, planting the gloves in front of his face. And this allowed Stevenson to place his right foot outside Valdez's lead foot. And then Stevenson just pot-shotted away because he had the footwork advantage and was given Valdez was giving very little resistance. So Valdez's strategy was a head-scratcher to me, as he does have a decent trainer, obviously, in Eddie Reynoso, who trains Canelo Alvarez. But this fight was a complete mismatch. I gave Valdez maybe 1 round. So Shakur Stevenson was head and shoulders the better fighter. Now, DAZN had the best fight of the night with Katie Taylor taking on Amanda Serrano. This was one of the best female fights I've seen. A great atmosphere with a capacity crowd of over 19,000 people cheering equally for both fighters, it seemed. This is one of those bouts that shows why we have the 10-point must system and sometimes how the punch stat numbers are misleading. Now, Serrano had a 173 to 147 edge in landed punches, but that discrepancy occurred in the 5th round because she outlanded Taylor by a huge margin in that round and had Taylor woozy with some power shots. Overall, I thought the fight was close, and when I looked at my own scorecard, I had it 96-93 for Taylor, but there was a lot of swing rounds, so I can see how there was such a discrepancy in the scoring. I gave Serrano a 10-8 round in the 5th, but I thought Taylor had outboxed her from the start and ultimately finished stronger. Taylor kept landing a lead left hook over and over again, and Serrano never made any adjustments to that punch. In between rounds, Serrano's trainer was recorded asking what round it was on 2 separate occasions after the 7th round, and he didn't seem to offer much in terms of tactical strategy. He seemed to be more of a rah-rah guy, and Serrano needed to make some adjustments, and her coach didn't even know what round it was. So, sometimes in close fights like this, it comes down to the trainer. Taylor dug down deep. She made adjustments late, and in the 10th round, it was all out, toe-to-toe, and I gave Taylor the slight edge. I think she won it in the 10th round. So now they're talking of a rematch, but we'll see, because both of these women are a bit long in the tooth. I was surprised that Katie Taylor is 35 years old. For some reason I thought she was younger. But it was a memorable fight, and definitely will go down as a classic in women's boxing. Now, this week's From the Archive is a 1980s middleweight fight between Frank the Animal Fletcher and Fletcher-Sammy Nesmith. Now, I've done a piece on Fletcher before. I'll leave a link below the video in the description box. Fletcher was a weekend favorite at NBC for a brief period of time in the early 80s. Here he takes on Sammy Nesmith. Nesmith was a power hitter out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Came out of the same gym, I believe, as Marvin Johnson. Nesmith is coming off a come-from-behind knockout win over the top-rated middleweight Ronnie Harris. And now he's ranked at the bottom half of the middleweight top 10.
Ladies and gentlemen, Philadelphia's very own Jolton Jeff Chandler. The first American to do so, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is, Jolton Jeff Chandler. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to announce that the Deputy Commissioner of Boxing of the New Jersey State Athletic Commission, this next bout is scheduled for 10 rounds, and it's in the middleweight division. The judges, William Kostrov and Milo Savage. The timekeeper at the bell, Percy Nicholas Richardson, counting for the knockdown seconds, referee Vincent Ramone. In the ring at this time, the man in charge of this bout, referee John Fitzpatrick. Introducing in the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with the black trim, weighing in at 160 pounds, the 5th-ranked middleweight of the world, ladies and gentlemen, from Indianapolis, Indiana, Fletcher-Sammy Nesmith. And his opponent in the red corner, wearing the blue trunks with the white trim, weighing in at 160½ pounds. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, ladies and gentlemen, the ESPN National Middleweight Champion. Here he is, Frank the Animal Fletcher.
John Fitzpatrick, the referee, with the instructions. In 4 tournament fights, Frank Fletcher has won $11,000. He never won more than $200 a night in his professional boxing career. So this tournament gave Frank Fletcher an opportunity to get exposure and to make money. And because he won the middleweight title in our tournament, he was guaranteed a $10,000 fight, and this is it. Frank Fletcher comes into this bout with a record of 8-2-1 with 6 knockouts, and he is taking on a world-ranked fighter, Sammy Nesmith, with a record of 35 victories, 4 defeats, 31 knockouts. And Nesmith, in the white trunks, is ranked 5th by the World Boxing Council.
Okay, let's remember that Frank Fletcher is a southpaw. Oh, what a good right hand. Early warning. The early warning systems work.
And that followed a left hand by Fletcher. So Nesmith proved that he can take as well as give.
Let's get out of it. Well, that seems to be one of the questions hovering over this fight. Nesmith has only beaten one quality contender-type opponent in his career. He discourages under pressure, and one thing that Frank Fletcher, we know, is capable of. He's not a picture fighter by any stretch of imagination, but he can generate pressure.
Nesmith about 3 inches taller than Fletcher.
What you're going to watch Fletcher try and do, keep your eyes on Fletcher's lead foot, the right foot. He's going to try to keep it outside of Nesmith's left foot and neutralize Nesmith's power, particularly from the right hand.
Fletcher missing with the left hand. Good body blow by Nesmith to the right side of Fletcher.
I've talked with people I respect when it comes to evaluating punching ability. I said, is he as good a puncher as Marvin Hagler? And they've said, to a man, better.
You're talking about Nesmith?
Yes, right.
Halfway through the first round, and if there is no knockout here in the first round, we will hear from both fighters between the first and second rounds in videotaped interviews. Remember, in New Jersey, it's the 5-point must system. We will be scoring here at ringside. We hope you do at home as well. Check it out with the official cards, and we were very close to the official cards in that last fight. Less than a minute to go in the opening round.
Fletcher's fighting a little bit more self-contained than he has in his tournament to date. He respects that power. He's heard about it.
A big left hand by Fletcher caught Nesmith. And this is the familiar Fletcher style.
And this is the kind of style that Nesmith is supposed to be able not to handle. He does not like pressure.
Oh, Fletcher backed Nesmith up to the ropes and hit him with a big roundhouse left. Fletcher not exactly cleaning up, but he is scoring effectively. And there's the title by knocking out a lefty, Ronnie Harris in Indianapolis. One of 31 knockout victims for Sammy Nesmith in white. Record of 35-4 with 31 knockouts. Frank Fletcher 8-2-1 with 6 knockouts.
Break. I'll take a book, man. Stop.
A low blow by Nesmith, and Fletcher just danced it off. In that first round, Jack McKinney called it an even round, and I thought that Fletcher won at 5-4. Using the left hand, but in a way, Fletcher has neutralized Nesmith's right hand.
Well, Nesmith is using his left hand in the wrong way. He's trying to hook it in. He should be bringing up his left hand and his right hand in uppercuts against that kind of a low, boring-in style. Apparently, he's never been taught that. And that gives his height. That makes his height a disadvantage.
Fletcher's got it back up against the ropes again, right over us. And he's going to work on Sammy Nesmith, who probably has not faced this kind of heat before.
Oh, he's faced it before, and each time he has, he's folded. The background on Nesmith indicates that when he's up against pressure, he's been knocked out 4 times by Tony Chiaverini, Sugar Ray Seals, Gary Guyton, and nobody named Raul Quarry. Each time he's been knocked out in pressure situations.
Nesmith now is bleeding from the mouth, and he has felt the Philadelphia Fury known as Frank Fletcher. As you said earlier, Jack, in all honesty, Frank Fletcher is not a beautiful fighter to watch, but he certainly is effective.
That he is. He keeps the pressure on, and that is the obvious answer in this fight against the 5th-rated WBC middleweight contender, who is not going, I have a feeling, not going to have that rank when this night is over.
Well, Fletcher's got Nesmith back against the ropes. We're coming down to the final seconds of the second round, and it's a familiar Frank Fletcher story. Lots of pressure. We'll be back with the third round after the schedule for 10. Jack, wouldn't you think that Nesmith has been told to start using his legs and motor around that ring, get more punching room?
Well, I don't know. I think he might have been told to get off first, but I don't think he's going to find that easy to do. He has the superior range. He has the height. He clearly has the reach advantage. I think the smart thing to do would be to tell him to get off first.
Now there is blood on the trunks of Nesmith, and our view is obscured. I can't tell which fighter is
Seems to be
cut.
Fletcher who's cut on the forehead, and I think he might have got it from his own misuse of his head, his own careless use of his head.
Yes, it is Fletcher who is cut. They're fighting in the corner to our right, and Fletcher's, the left side of his face is obscured from us, so we can't see. A big left hand by Fletcher caught Nesmith. A right uppercut by Fletcher.
Nesmith tries to come back with left hooks on a high plane when he should be coming in with uppercuts against that kind of a style.
And now Fletcher loses his mouthpiece. Both fighters toe-to-toe in the corner to our right. An right uppercut by Nesmith caught Fletcher. Fletcher still with that pressure. This popping. Since we told you that Fletcher was cut, he has not turned around to our side yet, so I really can't tell you where he's cut.
In fact, he's put a little bit of his own blood on the left side of Nesmith's head, and it makes it look as if, to some people, that Nesmith might be the one who's cut. We don't think that's the case.
Looks like the cut on Fletcher is underneath his left eye, on his left cheekbone. He turned around briefly, and I got a chance to see it. They have not moved from this position since the beginning of the round. Despite the cut, Fletcher is pounding away at Nesmith.
The fight is being contested on Frank Fletcher's turf. That's just where he'd like to see it.
That's Tony Fletcher, Frank Fletcher's younger brother, who's also a boxer. We've seen him here on ESPN. Blood coming down the left side of Fletcher's face, but his left and rights are scoring. Less than 30 seconds to go in this, the third round. Fletcher now landing heavier blows on Nesmith.
He's not letting Nesmith have any room to breathe. Right on top of him. Where is Naismith's reaching range now? It's completely gone.
Big left uppercut by Fletcher caught Nesmith, a right and then a left. And now we get a view of that cut. A big cut, and they're going to have to work off the ropes and out of those corners.
That's easy enough to say when you're on the other side of the ropes.
Frank Fletcher kept Nesmith in the corner for most of that third round.
They didn't do much of a job on Fletcher's cut, incidentally.
Fletcher cut underneath the left eye in that last round. And although he was cut, he kept the pressure on Nesmith. Both Jack McKinney and I thought that Fletcher won that last round. This is the fourth. And by now, Nesmith knows that Frank Fletcher is not a piece of cake.
But for some reason now, Fletcher is laying back on the outside. It's a question of whether he gave up too much in that last round.
In that third round, both Jack McKinney and I gave it to Fletcher 5-4. We have Fletcher ahead by 1 round. Left hand was picked off by the right glove of Nesmith. Lots of noise, but no damage. That's a slip by Nesmith. He's okay. So far, the cut has not reopened as far as Frank Fletcher is concerned. Nesmith scoring with a right cross. You see, when they're that much apart, you realize the advantage in reach that Nesmith has, but Fletcher is offsetted by fighting him close to the breast.
Which he's not doing in this round. He just seems to have forgotten what to do with his feet. The feet, where he places them, will play a very, very important part in being able to check off this man, cut down the ring, and put him in a corner. And he has forgotten that in this round.
And significantly, Nesmith has landed more blows in this round. Now, Fletcher's got him again at close quarters, but it's Fletcher who's backed into the corner this time. There he spins Nesmith around. That's right, he's sucking him into the corner. Less than a minute to go in the fourth, and Fletcher's got Nesmith in the corner again. And Frank Fletcher goes to work. Big left uppercut, big left hand. And Nesmith ought to get out of the corner. I can't understand this. A right hand by Fletcher, a left, a right.
Nesmith does not respond under pressure.
And the animal, Frank Fletcher, is chopping away at Sammy Nesmith. Less than 30 seconds to go. And, you know, Nesmith can dance out of that corner anytime he wants.
He has the opening to spin out right now, and he doesn't even know it. He's too worried about those now he doesn't have the opening anymore. He's too worried about those heavy hands of Frank Fletcher. And again, he's trying to counter that by coming over the top instead of coming up underneath.
Big right hand by Fletcher. And at the bell, Nesmith last round as far as Jack McKinney and I are concerned, but he also bought some time with that cut in his left eye. He was cut in the previous round, but in that last round, the fourth, the cut was not a factor. A short right hand delivered by Nesmith caught Fletcher on the left side of his face. Another right by Nesmith. And this plot now is obvious. As long as Fletcher gives Nesmith punching room, Nesmith will hit him. Big left hand by Fletcher. And Fletcher hits Nesmith with another left hand.
One thing we have to point out here, Nesmith could end this fight with one shot. He has that one-punch capability.
Frank Fletcher, a big crowd pleaser because of his straight-ahead style. Lots of pressure. Nesmith, and Fletcher just shakes it off. Nesmith misses. Another right by Nesmith. Nesmith now starting to find the mark.
Nesmith is starting to realize that his best defense is an offense against this man. He's got to get off first.
Nesmith bleeding from the mouth. Fletcher's cut has been nursed very well. It's the blood is not flowing at all.
Nesmith is fighting his way back into this fight.
Another right hand by Nesmith. We're halfway through the 5th round, and Nesmith is connecting a lot more here simply because he has more punching room. And Fletcher just caught Nesmith with the left hand. Nesmith back into the corner. Here goes the animal again. Fletcher is certainly not a piece of art, but he certainly is effective. He's got Nesmith cornered again, and Fletcher is scoring. There's a big left hand by Fletcher. A right. Less than a minute to go in the round.
Look at Nesmith. His only way of coming back is over the top, when he should be coming up, under and up. When he tries to come back over the top against that kind of a crouching pressure fighter, he's giving away his natural advantage of size and reach.
I think that Nesmith is caught here in a battle of egos. He wants to prove that he can fight Fletcher on Fletcher's terms.
I don't think he does that at all.
And he can't. He's not getting a choice. No. Less than 30 seconds to go, and Fletcher is winning another round. A big right hand by Fletcher.
Right hand, yes.
And that one staggered Nesmith. Nesmith does not look like a fighter who's ranked 5th by the WBC. He doesn't look like a fighter with 31 knockouts because Frank Fletcher is out punching him.
Big left hand.
A left uppercut by Fletcher, a right hand. And Nesmith in trouble at the bell. Fury, the animal, is doing his work.
And John Fitzpatrick is watching this very closely. This could be very close to the end for Nesmith unless he starts to do something.
A right by Fletcher. They both miss. Body blow by Nesmith. Both fighters really getting fatigued now, but Fletcher is giving Nesmith a beating.
That's the difference. Fletcher might be getting fatigued, but that's from throwing punches. The other man's fatigued from eating punches.
A left uppercut by Fletcher. Every once in a while, Fletcher gives him a body shot to remind him he's not only headhunting. A right by Fletcher. A left hand by Fletcher. A right by Fletcher. And down goes Nesmith. Nesmith is a beaten fighter. He is sitting in his own corner. He's being counted out. 7, 8, 9. Good night, sweet prince. Frank Fletcher has knocked out Sammy Nesmith, ranked 5th in the world. And the Fletcher family, they're all coming in the ring. Tony Fletcher has embraced his brother, and meanwhile, Sammy Nesmith has not moved from his position in his corner. He was chopped down like a tree.
Absolutely, and as I said, when he wound up in that corner, he was just shoved in there like a piano on wheels, and he wasn't allowed out from there on in.
Well, Frank Fletcher said before the fight, my only strategy is pressure. And there's a man sitting, there's a guy on the other side of the ring who's got a big, wide smile. Jersey Joe Walcott, the commissioner here in New Jersey. He liked this fight.
He did. There's a guy in the opposite corner still on the seat of his trunks, and he came in here as the 5th-ranked middleweight contender. Nesmith is still down.
Well, we could sense at the end of the 5th round that Nesmith was in trouble. And in the 6th, Fletcher took him out. What an exciting fight here on ESPN. And Frank Fletcher has never let us down in our tournament. Bang! Look at that left hand. Frank Fletcher has been the most entertaining fighter in our tournament.
That right hand.
And his mama is right here. We're going to talk to you later. Don't you go away.
I throw right hand all the time. I catch him every time with the left hand if I didn't lead, you know. And I did what Marty Thurman said, and Reverend Elvin Thompson. Throw the left hand over the top wide and fire back with the right hook, and I catch him every time when I tried.
After this bout, Nesmith struggled with motivation, and he struggled with motivation throughout his career because he wasn't making any progress. The closest he came to signing with a big-time promoter was with Don King, who lowballed him with a $2,000 signing offer. And Nesmith refused, and his career just ended up stagnating. He would suffer back-to-back losses against Sugar Ray Seales and Jerry Hawley before a car accident sidelined him for 2.5 years with a shoulder injury. Nesmith would return, win 2 more fights, then he would never fight again after 1984. So we got one question from this week's mailbag. This is from Brandon Simmons. Top 5 greatest Mexican fighters if you had to choose. I'll give you the second tier and then the first tier. My bottom 3 would be the 3 amigos, Juan Manuel Marquez, Marco Antonio Barrera, and Eric El Terrible Morales. I think those 3 are interchangeable pretty much with their achievements and abilities. I won't argue with anyone if they have one rated over the other. I'd probably rank Marquez as the best of the 3. But El Terrible was my favorite Mexican fighter of all time if I had to choose. Top 2 is kind of obvious. Julio Cesar Chavez and Salvador Sanchez. People automatically say Chavez when you ask if who was the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. But sometimes we do forget about how dominant he really was, especially during the years of 1985 to 1993. He was steamrolling everyone until he got to Pernell Whitaker. And in some ways, I can make the case that he was a little past his best by 1993. Chavez's best years were from, say, 1987 to 1989. He looked like he was unbeatable. Now, as far as Salvador Sanchez, his career was obviously tragically cut short. We had him for those 3 great years, and, wow, did he make his mark. So, they're both great. I don't really want to differentiate between those 2. Ricardo Lopez is just outside the top 5 as he competed in the 105-pound weight class, and his competition was limited. So maybe he's unfairly ranked lower because of that. We'll see how the rest of Canelo's career plays out. If he continues to win and improve like he has been, he goes straight into the top 2 when he retires. Others will mention Carlos Zarate, Ruben Olivares. I think they rank just outside the top 5. So thanks for the comments and views on the Jimmy Bivins and Mike Quarry episodes. I wish I had more of Jimmy Bivins' early bouts, particularly his wins over Ezra Charles and Archie Moore. The only footage we have on him is when he is a bit past his prime, but you can still see how crafty and cagey he was. He had a reported 79-inch reach, which is like a 6'3" heavyweight, and he was only 5'9". So he's like the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards in there. Now, his defensive fighting style was in stark contrast to Mike Quarry's style. In looking at Quarry's footage, I was struck by how small of a frame he had. He was not a light heavyweight. At the time, I think his father may have wanted him to compete in the highest weight possible so they could make as much money as possible. There are some early news articles where Mike and his father talk of a prospective move to the heavyweight division, which in hindsight is, obviously ridiculous. Mike Quarry competed at a time when there wasn't the super middleweight division just yet. And in looking at his physique, he's a little soft in the middle. So I think with the proper diet, he could have pared down to middleweight and would have been a lot more effective than he was. Another weakness he had was he fought exactly like his brother. He'd dance around and engage in toe-to-toe action with little regard of whether he got hit or not, and he did not have Jerry's firepower. His career was a replica of the sparring sessions that he had with his older brother. So ultimately, it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. He took way too much punishment over time, and in the end, the result was pugilistic dementia. So that's it for the mailbag. Next week, we got Canelo versus Dimitri Bivol. And so feel free to leave your questions below, and I'll answer them next week. Thanks for listening.